All right. Uh, I've talked about this in the past, and tech news is cyclical, and things come and go, come and go. I expressed frustration with this last year with the iPhone 14, and when Apple decided to remove the physical SIM card tray, and the iPhone 14 sold here in the United States, I said that's not a good idea. And from my perspective, removing that physical SIM tray only really benefits the companies. You, the consumer, yeah, they'll tell you security, and people won't be able to either steal your SIM card or clone your SIM card if it's not physically there. And I mean, I didn't know that that was a real cause for concern that people were having their SIM card stolen or cloned. But if they are, that I am ignorant to that fact. Um, but from the business's perspective, it's okay. The one thing that you could easily transition from device to device is now gone. So from Apple's perspective, it's well, you have an eSIM on your iPhone, and we've created a tool to allow you to transfer your eSIM to another iPhone. But if you decide that maybe you want to give Android a try, we haven't done anything for that. And Google hasn't done anything, I believe. I know there's something on the Pixel when you set it up. Ask if it's coming from an iOS device. In fact, let me see if I can bring that up real quick. Go to settings, not working that. I'm going to take it out of airplane mode. Do that. Transfer from another phone. Mobile. Okay. And I'm not going to go into it, but and I'll hopefully put some screenshots on. Maybe I won't, but right now there's a screen that says, "Oh, download a new eSIM or transfer a SIM from another phone." So I tap on that, select my network, which is T-Mobile. It's saying, "Do you want to transfer it from a Pixel or Android device?" Which there was another article talking about the fact that Google decided to say Pixel or Android device instead of just saying Android because Pixels are Android devices, but they're segmenting themselves from the rest of Android. Talked about fragmentation in another video. But the other button is iPhone or iPad. So tap on iPhone, check your network info, and then it takes me to T-Mobile's website. So I don't know what the process for that would be, but I don't like that I have to get T-Mobile involved in order to switch cell phones, regardless of if it's iPhone to iPhone, Android to Android, or from one platform to the other. I should be able to simply do it without getting T-Mobile involved. And with this eSIM only mind frame or option, it's looking like, yeah, if you want to go from one device to the other or one platform to the other, you have to get your carrier involved. And that's just not good for the consumer. So it's locking you in as an iPhone user, if that's the case. And then from the carrier's perspective, some, and I haven't seen it and I've only read about it, but some might even charge a fee to transfer an eSIM from one device to another. And it's just like, what? Like, that doesn't make any sense. And yeah, that is pushing the wave in for justifying or continuing to justify upgrade fees. It's, oh, we need to transfer your eSIM from your old phone to your new phone. That's going to be $35. What? No, like $35 for what? But that's frustrating. So all that to say, eSIM only is a bad idea, and very rarely do I like just reading articles, with the camera on. But I thought this was interesting, and let's read it. Hopefully, I don't bore you too much. Pixel. The title of the article is "Pixel Ready's built-in eSIM conversion tool." Cool. Physical SIM cards from cell carriers are on their way out, being replaced by digital eSIMs, as led by the iPhone 15 series, altogether removing the SIM card slot for U.S. models. In my opinion, that's bad journalism. They should have said that this problem, and I'm calling it a problem, really started last year, really, a year and a half ago now with the iPhone 14. But hey, whatever. To help encourage the move to eSIM, Google is preparing a built-in eSIM conversion tool for Pixel phones. And again, segmenting Android from the Pixel is okay. Google, is this conversion tool a part of Android now, or is it a feature that's only on a Pixel? Fragmentation isn't good, but I know they want you to buy the phones. But at the same time, it's like, well, you don't want to break the segmentation down any further than it already is. And this is just another form of potential fragmentation. For now, major Android phones have retained their SIM card slots, but over time, carriers and phone makers will begin to encourage the use of eSIMs instead of using a physical SIM card. In the long term, swapping to primarily using eSIM will cut down on future e-waste and make it easier to swap carriers from the comfort of home. All right. Okay. Now, there are two things right there, and I don't think I could ever be a journalist. Because, yeah, like you can just so easily throw ideas together and have them potentially be factually true or be completely false, be misleading, be incomplete. But anyway, so the part of that sentence of to help cut down on future e-waste. I guess. I mean, yeah, every little bit matters, right? So we're talking like the nano SIM card is a very small piece of plastic and metal. If that ends up in a landfill, yeah, it's going to sit there probably forever. But is that a real cause of e-waste? I mean, last year it was like the lightning cables, and before that it was like the charging blocks and stuff like that. And I get if you make more stuff will end up in the landfill. But removing the charging block from the box, I get that 100%. Understand, because yeah, at the end of the day, we all have stuff to charge our device. You bought 1, 2, 3 phones in your life. The charging blocks probably still work. You don't need to include that. You probably or potentially bought a third-party charging block. Same thing with the cables. Cables are still included for most of the devices. Sony, I think, has gotten rid of everything. But at least the iPhone, the Galaxy, the Pixel still include cables. But at some point, those are going to go away too, because yeah, you probably at some point will have accumulated enough that the manufacturer will say, you have enough. I get that, and I don't really have a problem with that. So getting rid of those out of the box from an e-waste perspective, and yes, a cost-cutting perspective for the OEM, I understand it. But a SIM card, is that really how we're going to look at this, that this becomes e-waste? And yeah, I'm not going to pretend that they don't end up in landfills, because they certainly do. But I know one way to cut down on e-waste while still using SIM cards, and I don't know if it's like this for all carriers, but with T-Mobile, if the SIM card isn't active for a certain period of time, you just can't use it anymore. And I thought that was interesting, that if it's been off their network for a long enough period of time, they will not re-add it. Is that a security thing? I don't know. From my perspective, that's more of a cost-causing thing of, oh, you need a new SIM card, especially as a prepaid customer. That's a $10 fee for a physical SIM card. For a postpaid customer, I don't think they charge you, but I'm honestly not sure for postpaid customers. But either way, from my perspective, I don't think e-waste is a real reason to remove the physical SIM card. The next little point right there is, and make it easier to swap carriers from the comfort of home. Yeah, I can see that. I really can. I always use this one example because I mean it justifies exactly the point they're trying to make. Is that I was here home, and my mother, she was in the same state, but was somewhere else, and her Verizon physical, like she had a cell plan with with Verizon, and her monthly data allotment had been consumed. I mean, she's a postpaid customer, every time she traveled, she would always go over. And this one particular time, she needed to continue using her phone. She had reached her data allotment, and it turned out that she was actually going to be staying in town a little bit longer. So I said, okay, what I can do is I need some information from you. So she was able to send me a few pieces of information from the device. And with that, I was able to log into T-Mobile's website, into my account, and activate her eSIM remotely and allow her to continue using data, but this time on T-Mobile's network. And yeah, it was perfect. I mean, yeah, she was still making calls and sending text messages through Verizon's network, but the data was going through T-Mobile's network. So yeah, I cannot refute that is easier. Not having to go to a store, not having to wait for a SIM card to come in the mail. I just did that with my grandfather a couple months ago. Yeah, but and I've said this in all the videos that I made about this, is that if you have a phone that only has eSIM, I think that's bad. In the case of these Zen phones, having phones that have two physical SIM card slots is nice, but they don't have an eSIM. Even though, yes, I was enjoying having two physical SIM cards, I also think having an eSIM is a good idea. So, but I think you can only have two SIMs that active at the same time. So, if you had two physical SIM cards active at the same time, the eSIM wouldn't be in use, or whatever. So, from my perspective, I guess through my internal market analysis, I think it's best to have both options. So, one physical SIM card and the option to activate an eSIM, how many eSIMs you can activate and how many you can have active at one time. Not really too concerned about that, but just giving the user the option for both, I think, is the best option. Okay, so back to the article. To get closer to that future, many carriers have launched ways to convert your existing SIM card to a digital eSIM saved to your phone. However, this process will look quite different depending on what carrier you use, and in some cases, unexpected issues can lead to temporarily losing your cellular service. And see, problems arise, and something like this shouldn't be shipped until it is almost perfect, because it's not, oh, this camera app has a couple of bugs, or maybe you dropped a call, or maybe you have to refresh the app. Those are issues that don't impact functionality of the device itself. So if you lose cell reception, and then it's like, well, I need to call the carrier to get it fixed, but I can't. That is a problem. So now you're going back into the store anyway. And even if it is a small number of people, which it might be a small number, it should be so minuscule that it's every 1 in a million maybe is having these issues, and that's something that they need to really test in whatever lab environment that they actually have, because like I remember when the iPhone 14 came out, and a lot of people were having issues, and in all of my situations. Let's see. In fact, I did it for the first time a couple weeks ago. But prior to that, I'd only activated new eSIMs. So it's just like, okay, boom, just new line, new number. I'm not transferring anything. And I've done it for one of my phones. In fact, I think two of my phones maybe. And then, for my mother's data-only line. But recently, I did transfer a landline to an eSIM. And it worked. Yeah, it worked. It took a little while, but after talking to customer service and get an understanding of how long it truly would take, and even seeing it online, it said it could take like a full business week. I said, okay, cool. So yeah, it works. But for anybody who was going from cell phone to cell phone and transferring or converting a physical SIM to an eSIM, and you lose all cell connectivity, that's a problem that just shouldn't happen. So the fact that it is another reason why you need to still have the physical SIM card. I said at least for another 4 to 5 years. I mean, is that going to happen? We'll see. And then also, what's going to happen in the United States might not be reflective of what happens in the entire world. And I'm not going to read all this, but there's more text talking about like what's happening from T-Mobile's standpoint, where some people have had issues, and here are here are some of the examples that you might get when trying to convert your physical SIM to an eSIM using T-Mobile. Of course, SIM converted, so success. Cannot convert SIM. Okay. Your T-Mobile SIM card cannot be converted to eSIM. You can contact T-Mobile for help. Something went wrong with converting your eSIM. To fix the problem, contact T-Mobile. And yeah, it's just like, what? Like if I'm gonna have to contact you anyway, I might as well just wait for something to come in the mail, or might as well have to go just pick something up. And the first time I activated my eSIM, I mean, obviously I didn't know exactly how to do it. I just figured I had my little prepaid card, go into the settings and activate it that way. But I ended up calling customer service, and they took care of it for me. But then I've learned that, yeah, you can do everything online for the most part. And yeah, I've had no real issues. But as I've said before, if I'm switching phones, or if you're switching phones, I don't think you should have to go through your carrier, whoever it is. It's just take the SIM card out. And if you're staying with them, and again, just switching phones, put it in another device. Now, and in fact, there's anything else I want to mention in this article? And it says, from what we can tell, Google's primary intention is to make it easier to convert from a physical SIM card to an eSIM when setting up a new phone. To that end, the only other mentions of conversion within this app are related to the recently launched ability to transfer an eSIM from one pixel to another. You can convert your SIM card from an eSIM. You can convert your SIM card into an eSIM and transfer it to this phone. After it's been converted, your SIM card can't be used again. And we're talking e-waste. At least that's what they mentioned up earlier in the article. Well, why can't I use, is it saying this line is now no longer associated with the SIM card, or is it I flat out can't use the SIM card ever again? Don't know. And of course, here's some screenshots of how exactly to do it. So I think in closing, I'll say this, that it looks like Google is looking out for the Pixel. All right. I think that needs to just be baked into Android. In fact, I don't. Yeah, let me look at this, since this phone has Android 14 on it and it's not a Pixel. Let me see if I go into. Let me turn off airplane mode. This phone doesn't even have the option for an eSIM, so there's no point of even doing it. Let me turn airplane mode back on so it's not constantly looking for a network. So again, that sucks. But in closing, what I will say is that Google's looking out for Google. I truly think it just needs to be built or baked into Android. But how do you bake it into Android if all phones don't even have the option for an eSIM? Is it just grayed out? Is that something that the OEM is now responsible for tweaking? I don't know. But of course, if everybody moves to eSIM, then that issue no longer becomes a problem. But the biggest issue, and this is when, yes, both companies need to talk to each other, is transferring an eSIM between Android and iOS. Until that is a thing, this doesn't need to be a thing. And this meaning the removal of the physical SIM card. So until I can transfer from iPhone to Android device without a care in the world, the way that I can transfer a physical SIM card between the devices, there still needs to be a physical SIM card in all Android devices. You can't say that about iPhones anymore, unfortunately. So that's that. And hopefully physical SIM cards remain in Android devices for a while.